Good evening, everybody. I'm Christophe Goddard. I am currently a research associate professor in archaeology at the Ecole Normale Supérieure in Paris, and also at CNRS, the National Research Center for Scientific Research. So I'm going to present my college and also the archaeological program that is a very important cooperation between, I'll start directly with a PowerPoint if you don't mind. There we go. So an archaeological cooperation, international cooperation in archaeology, focused mainly on archaeology and classical studies between the Ecole Normale Supérieure in Paris, a member of the PSL, Paris Sciences Lettres University Network, the French Embassy in Kosovo, the Ministry of Foreign and European Affairs in France, but also with the University of Pristina, the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Youth of Kosovo, the Archaeological Institute of Kosovo, and the European Union office in Pristina in Kosovo. And this program is co-directed by three people, myself, and also Professor Arben Haidari and archaeologist Milot Berisha. So let me start by presenting the ENS. ENS stands for École Normale Supérieure. So school in French, in this sense, means in fact college in the American sense, so university. But it's a small university in the sense that we have 800 permanent professors and researchers working at ENS campuses. And that is one of the main characteristics of this school. You can see two pictures of the main building, Rue d'Ulm. So the school was founded in 1794 during the French Revolution. One of the main characteristics is that we've got lodging on site. Part of our students are hosted in our buildings. That is one of the major differences between our college in most universities in France. The other characteristic is that if we have 800 professors and researchers, we only have 2,400 students, among which 930 receive a fellowship by the state after passing a competitive exam every year, which means that the ratio professor per student is pretty low for the École Normale Supérieure. And that is one of the reasons we have a good international ranking. We all think that the system of international ranking is rather a bit stupid, to be honest. But for the ENS, you should know that ENS has produced a lot of Nobel Prizes, 14 for the time being. We have also colleagues have received 11 field medals, 3 Abel Prizes. So the other thing I should say, and that you cannot get from those figures from those international rankings, is that the system of international ranking tends to list all the people with a Nobel Prize who are members of the faculty of those universities. When we say that we've got 14 Nobel Prizes at the school, is that we produce them, is that they studied at the school, and then some of them stayed with us, others went in our universities, sometimes in American universities, like our colleague Estelle Duflo, who was in the States, as you might know. She's the Nobel Prize for 2019 in economy. She was in Harvard and at the MIT, but she studied and was recruited at ENS and trained here. Same thing for Louis Pasteur. I mean, I just took this figure because vaccination is quite a big deal nowadays. and vaccination was actually invented. One of the places where it was invented was actually in the school, in the buildings of the school. And you can see Pasteur in 1885, while he was inventing the famous first vaccination against rabies. So the school has its own libraries, a network of libraries where you can, like in American or English universities, take the books yourself. You don't have to go through an office. So it's very different from the experience you may have had at the University of Pristina. And that is one of the major jewels of the Ecole Normale. We have the most important libraries in the humanities and social sciences in the main building, but others are in different facilities, one in Boulevard Jourdain, not far away from the Cité Universitaire, the international student housing campus. But my center, the sometime director, and we'll talk about it later on, has also its own library you would have access if you decide to join our program. So in terms of international relations, the École Normale has a lot of partnerships around the world and is one of the most internationalized institutions in France. That is something that should be said right now. But as I said, it's a very different college from other colleges in France, because to enter the school, if you're a French student or European student, you normally have to go through this competitive examination that you take usually before graduation in average and normal systems. And the ratio, to tell you how competitive it is, the success rate is about 5%. So it's a very competitive exam. And our students, when they take this exam, usually go in special prep schools for 2 years. We call classe préparatoire in French. That correspond to the first 2 years of a bachelor degree. And they stay with us for 4 years. Those who take this and pass this competitive examination are then, for the 930 students that pass this exam, are then become civil servants, are paid by the state for 4 years. Then they have to take another competitive exam, the agrégation, that will guarantee them to be a professor in a secondary system for life, or to get a fellowship to enter a PhD program. And the success rate of this new competitive exam in France is also very low. Usually in universities, it's about 10%. And at the school, because our students are pretty good, it's true, the success rate is over 90%. And then they enter a system, which is this PhD program for 3 to 5 years, usually with a fellowship. Some of those fellowships, the PhD fellowships, are reserved to what we call Normaliens, to students of our school. And others are fellowships they get by the normal system, the fellowships you can get from the French government in France. Of course, students from Pristina wouldn't, or international students do not have to go through that system. They can if they want, but they don't have to. We've got other ways of entering the school. There's what we call an international selection, which is a bit like the competitive examination. Just a few possibilities. 10 positions in sciences, 10 positions in arts and humanities, which is not very much. And those students get more or less the same conditions as the other fellows we have, the other élèves, we call them. So in English would be pupil, but pupil is only a secondary school, in a secondary school, so it's more students. And those students are paid also by the state for the same time, almost 3 years, but not 4. They also get a room usually in one of the UNS campuses. And at the end of their studies, they get a diploma from the ENS, exactly like the other students. So that is one way of entering the Ecole Normale. The other way of entering the Ecole Normale is to register directly to a master degree program, and especially going through our international cooperation we've built with Professor Haidari and archaeologist Milot Berisha. You would register in one of our two programs. One is actually at ENS, in the Master of Humanities. There's an option in classical studies. And the other one is at the EPHE, which is one of the other schools we have, so-called schools we have, prestigious college, École pratique des hautes études. And all of them, all those master degree programs, follow their courses, their seminars, do their digs in a research center, and in this case, AUROC, which is the research center in archaeology and classical studies at the ENS, at the EPHE. So they share the same research center. But research centers in France now are the places of training for master degree students and PhD students. And I am the director of this research center. So for the time being, since 2017, this year, this international program has allowed a few students from Pristina to receive a fellowship either from the French embassy or directly from the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Youth from Kosovo to go to Paris for the EMA students for 2 years, for the PhD students for 3 years, but only half of the year. It's the degree you get, the PhD degree you get, doctorate you get it from ENS and also from the University of Pristina. But to do that, you have to stay a part of your time in Paris, part of your time in Pristina. So for the time being, this year, we have 2 students who are currently was sent by the University of Pristina with us in Paris. One PhD student was sent directly by the Ministry of Culture. He's an archaeologist from the Ministry of Culture. But they all follow our courses in my research center as students of either ENS or EPHD. But our master students, for the time being, only belong to ENS, only follow the first program we have in archaeology in my research center. We still have students also who are attached to our international corporation who come from or go to Lyon, because the person who started everything on the French side is Professor Lambolet, who used to be professor in Grenoble when he created its international corporation in 2006, and later on moved to the University of Lyon. And we still have 2 PhD students who are going to go to their defense, finish their PhD this year. This year. They were supposed to come to Lyon to present their defense in their thesis in December. It was then postponed to January because of the epidemic. And so it will, the end of those doctorates will be probably January, February. But we still have in this international corporation, I must say, and insist on it, as a partner, the University of Lyon. And it goes also the other way. This international corporation allows students from France to go to Pristina and to Ulpiana, where we all dig in together, to be part of this training program in archaeology with our colleagues from the University of Pristina and with our colleagues, archaeologists, professionals from the Archaeological Institute of Kosovo. So the training you can get by going to France, French students get it from going to during the summer to during those excavations we have currently in Kosovo. So I go both ways. That's the whole idea of the cooperation. This is a picture of this cooperation. That was 2 years ago. Unfortunately, we couldn't do it last summer, but it will resume. And there's something new this year is that this cooperation is now also a cooperation that is financed by the European Union that allows us to build a new training, especially in geophysics. And that is something very important. I will now explain what kind of work we do with students. So part of the work is kind of traditional. You come to Paris, you read books, you write an essay for 2 years, and then you, when you're done with it, you present a project to get a fellowship and do a PhD. And when you're done with your PhD, then you need to get a job. And what I should say right now is the students who have been through our program have managed all to get a position back home. And that is something I must say, Jean-Luc Lobolet and I on the French side are very proud of. And it is, I must say, a major achievement of Professor Lambolet. So, as I said, the work is hosted by a research center. A research center in France is a place where you do research, but it's also a place where you are trained. You're trained by colleagues. And in our research center, we have 150 members. So 150 persons who are either professors, either researchers from CNRS, or research professors from CNRS, like me, or Collège de France, which is another prestigious structure in France, or archaeologists from the INRAP, which is the Emergency Excavation National Center, or curators from museums in France, like the Louvre, for example. The head of the Department of Greek and Roman Antiquities is a member of our center. And we have also a lot of technicians, and who allows us to do a lot of very technical work. I'll show you right away. So we have currently also a number of students attached to our center. So 38 students doing an MA and 67 PhD candidates. So our archaeological mission project in Ulpiana is not the only one my research center is currently directing or co-directing, always with colleagues from the places where we work.
Mr. Goddard, if I can just stop you 1 second, just to tell you that you have 2 minutes left before the end of the webinar.
We have actually 25 archaeological missions. And of course, when you come over to our program, in this scheme we've built with Pristina, you're allowed to go to the other excavations we have all around the world, as you can see, to learn very modern techniques, do 3D modelizations like here, but also very average technique, normal work like here, but with new techniques like chemistry, like here, stratigraphy, 3D modeling, as I said earlier, chemistry, but also geophysics, and which allows us to read through the ground without doing excavation, and allowed us to very recently to identify an all new section of the city of Justiniana Seconda near Gračanica, as you can see here. This is an unpublished picture, by the way. So thank you very much. I don't know if you have any questions, but while I will listen to it, I'll just put a video behind without any sound, so you have some kind of movement.
I suppose that now we don't have time for questions. I don't know, and Sophie, or because
we have just 1 minute left, so I think it's best maybe if we conclude, and if anybody with questions to Mr. Goddard can make an appointment on the platform.
Sure.
Ok, Monsieur Goddard, en tout cas, je vais le dire en français. Une fois n'est pas coutume, merci infiniment. J'ai écouté votre conférence l'autre jour, c'était passionnant. Et donc, j'espère qu'on va se revoir déjà pour vos propres projets ici et également avec vos collègues de Lille et les miens qui sont actuellement à Bruxelles. Donc, j'espère vous revoir bientôt, Monsieur
Oui,
Goddard.
oui, on va se revoir vite. Alors, d'autant que on a encore acquis, on a eu pas mal de succès dans nos demandes de financement, vu qu'on a à peu près que ça à faire en ce moment. Enfin, ça, plus faire des tas de réunions et des cours. Mais, mais donc on a pas mal on a un équipement ultra moderne en géophysique qu'on n'avait pas encore l'année dernière, qu'on va pouvoir emmener à Pristina.
Bon,
Si on peut mettre ça dans une voiture.
j'ai peur d'être coupé, mais je devrais être le 5 ou le 6 à Lille avec
Ah,
Monsieur Moreau. Donc, peut-être qu'on
je
essaiera de voir
viendrai.
comment être en
Oui,
contact avec vous.
je viendrai à Lille. Je crois que le
Ah,
plus
bah,
simple.
c'est génial. Super.
Ouais.
Et ben, à vous voir à Lille. Alors, bientôt.
Je,
Merci.
je vous remercie encore une fois. Et là, ça va vraiment couper d'ici 2-3
Bon,
secondes. Donc, merci encore.
ok.
À très bientôt.
Bientôt.